So here we are, and it's Sunday, a great good day. And we are very happy and we are very glad to be in it. And so welcome. And we get to look at this amazing thing called consciousness and the worth of consciousness and the worth in consciousness and the worth that comes out of consciousness. And it's all about consciousness, 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 consciousness. That's all we have to really share, is what that thing called consciousness means in your life and in my life. And it is out of consciousness that every sense of worth, every sense of value, every choice you make, every decision you make, everything you perceive, and every conclusion you come to, all comes out of consciousness, nowhere else. And as you know, consciousness is a state of being. It's a state of awareness, it's a state of understanding, and it is what creates your good life or your not so good life, and mine too. And depending upon what's going in consciousness and what we're supporting in consciousness, so too goes our life. And so therefore, you and I have to really take this thing, look at it, and understand its amazing importance and its amazing potency in our lives. Because that's where we choose to produce a life of whatever and nowhere else. And the life that we're living has nothing to do with what's going on out there, or circumstances, or situations, or conditions. Not at all. The life that we are living is the life that we are living because of the way we are in mind and the way we allow consciousness to flow through our minds. Now, consciousness is not your mind and your mind is not consciousness. Consciousness is the ultimate source of creativity out of which everything flows, and it uses the mind to express itself. But you get to choose what state of mind you're going to entertain, what state of mind you are in. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not so good. Sometimes it's brilliant and sometimes it's foolish, and so on, etc. And we all know that because we've all had those experiences in our own lives. But today you and I have to take a deeper look at what it is to be a conscious being, to be a conscious person, and to understand the various states of mind. And there are states of mind. In my Father's house there are many mansions. You can be anywhere in mind. You can be any state of mind, as you know, within yourself and in others too. And you get to choose what that state is going to be. See, there comes a time in life when we have to move out of the mental state. The mental state. And the mental state's a very, very good state, but if we stay at that level, we're going to stay at the level of the outer world and the world of the senses. And we're always going to be looking at everything and deciding about everything from what we are perceiving and what we are seeing. But what we are perceiving and what we are seeing is not necessarily the truth at all. It is not necessarily reality, and mostly it is not. It is a state of actuality. It's a state of facts. And it's not necessarily a state of truth or a state of what is real. Actually, mostly what we're looking out at is an illusion. It truly is. And it's hard to get a concept of that when things are pretty darn solid, you know? You could say, well, don't tell me it's an illusion for me to be looking at this thing and it's a podium and it's solid and so on. Yeah, but at the quantum level, that's not what it is. But I'm not going to go into the quantum level now. Let's stay at just this level. But all I'm saying is that everything is not what it appears to be, including yourself. And you know that more than anything else. You are not always what you appear to be. Anyone will tell you that. When you have to be on, as they say, I now have to be on. I might feel rotten and dreadful and wretched, but I have to be on. So I'm going out there and I'm going to be on. Anybody who's in a job knows that. You have to, get over whatever it is that's going on in you to pay attention to your job. So you know from your own personal experiences that things are not always the way they seem to be. Neither are people always the way they seem to be. Neither are you always the way you seem to be. So you're very good and I'm very good. All of us are very good illusionists. We're well able to create a sense of perception for somebody or things out there. when it's not the case. So that's okay as long as we're aware of what we're doing. We have to be aware of what we're doing. So the mental state is an amazing, fascinating state to be in, and it's a great good state, but it's not the only state, and we're not supposed to stay at the mental level. There's another level that there is an invitation for you and for me to enter into, and it is the spiritual state. Now, the spiritual state of mind is not the holy, holy state of mind, or the pious state of mind, or the religious state of mind. It has little, if anything at all, to do with that. It has to do with a deeper understanding and a deeper awareness of what consciousness is. It is a state of mysticism. And don't think in terms of only a few being called to be mystics. That's a whole load of baloney. Every single person in this room is a mystic, and every person besides is a mystic. We may not enter into that state, into that aspect of our being, but we are that, and we are that already. We don't have to do anything to get there. We don't have to become anybody different to get there. We're all mystical in our essence. What is the mystical state? The mystical state is simply being conscious as much as possible. And being conscious of what? Being conscious that I am more than me. Being conscious of something greater than I am in me, accompanying me, always present to me. Some would call that a constant state of being in the presence of God, old language for it. Being in the presence of God constantly. Praying without ceasing means being in that conscious state of awareness. You know, and I know, even as a child I knew, no one could be on their knees all day long and all night long praying, because that's what's conjured up in a child's mind when they're taught, you must pray without ceasing. And even at that age I knew it was impossible. When would you stop to eat? When would you get your milk and cookies, you know? And so on. And so the idea of the spiritual state of mind, or the spiritual consciousness, is the idea of knowing that something greater than what is just happening around you and about you, and even you, as you, there's a much greater element to you. It's to know that. But in knowing that is to be able to interact with it consciously and call upon it consciously, and to use that power and that potency and that presence available to you for good, for your good and the good of all. So that's the spiritual state of being. It's a spiritual state of consciousness, and it's where you and I want to be at least most of the time. We want to hang out there at least 51% of the time. And that gives us leeway for all kinds of shenanigans on the 49%. But 51% is the majority. And when we're there, our lives flow much more easily, effortlessly, and beautifully, no matter what's going on. Now, is this easy? It is so not easy. And all of us who are endeavoring know that. Because we are so entrenched in the mental state of being, and judging everything according to the senses and the outer world, and getting our sense of that mostly, and not being satisfied as a consequence of it, because we can't be satisfied with just living at the mental state of awareness. And so there comes a time when no matter what your past experience has been, or what my past experience has been, I have to, lighten up about it all and say, that was then, this is now, and here in this moment now I can create a whole new experience of life and living for myself, as so many people have done. And I'm not just talking about great saints and great sages. I'm talking about ordinary people, knowing there are no such thing as ordinary people. We're all extraordinary and unique. So how can we be ordinary? Because we're all unique. But anyway, for the purposes of understanding and semantics, ordinary people do this all the time too. They have these breakthroughs. They're able to turn their lives around, and they do. Many of them are sitting in this room today, and we just know that this thing called superconsciousness works. And it's something that is always going to be present to you and with you, and you have an opportunity to tune into and really grow from and strengthen and be empowered as a result of that conscious connection with your source, the source of your being, that out of which you came in the first place. And so what this means then is for you and for me that no matter what the challenge is that crosses our path, no matter how difficult it may be, no matter how awesomely challenging it may be, no matter how dour it may be, it doesn't have to remain that way if I can take myself into a higher state of awareness. And that's why you hear me say a lot, and if I be lifted up into a higher state of awareness, can draw all good unto myself and through myself. And that is the truth. But how do we get there? That's the thing. How do I get there? I'm not going to be able to get there on my own. On my own, I cannot do it. I need something more than myself, my small little self, to get me there. I need to be consciously connected with a power that is greater than I am. How do I get to that state of understanding, acknowledgement, and awareness? Well, I have to put in the time, the energy, and the effort. I have to show up. I have to pray. I have to study. I have to meditate. I have to do all of that, unless I'm one of those exceptions to the rule, and there are no exceptions to the rule when I explain it. We think of Buddha, and we think of Paul and his white charger being thrown off his horse and getting it instantly, and we think of somebody like, Jesus, of the greatest lover that ever moved amongst us, and so on. Don't think they got it instantly. They did not. They all paid their dues. They all showed up. They all put in the time. They all put in the energy. They all put in the effort. They all put in the study. They all put in the meditation time. They all put in the prayer time, each and every single one of them. None of them did it happen for just like that. So you and I are not an exception to that rule. You and I have to show up as they did and do it the very same way. And sometimes it takes a big happening in our lives to wake us up. Now, we don't want the big happening to be an earthquake, a mental earthquake, a physical earthquake. We want it to be something much more gentle than that. So, for those of us now, we can make the decision that with a little bit of effort every day, we won't get ourselves to the situation whereby something huge has to happen before we're going to put the effort in and make the endeavor. We don't want it to happen that way, and it doesn't need to happen that way. But should it happen that way, doesn't matter. You can come back from that. Absolutely, you can come back from that. People are doing it all of the time. They're coming back from impossible situations and impossible conditions, and they're being the better for it. And they are the happier and the more peaceful for it, and you can do it too. So what we need to get straight in our minds today is there is no such thing as heaven and earth. There's no such thing as man and God. There's no such thing as, the spiritual and the non-spiritual. There is no such thing as that. That's the biggest of all illusions. There is only the one thing. There's only the one thing, and I am part of that one thing. I am the one thing in this particular manifestation and in this particular form. So there is only that. Now that's a huge thing to be able to get our mental arms around and to have an understanding of that. What I'm saying to you is you don't have to turn into anybody else. You don't even have to become anybody else than who and what you are. You are not only the human being now, but you're the spiritual being now. You are not only on earth now, you're in heaven now, you see. And that's what we all have to get. That it's all happening all at one time. And I will choose by the way I use the consciousness that is me, and that is the one thing, through the way I think in my mind, to either make a hell for myself or a heaven for myself. Either to know myself as the more or the less. To know myself as capable or incompetent. I will use the mind to create those states for me, and so will you. And so today the choice is start looking at the way you truly think and what you truly believe and what you truly know. because that affects how you truly feel. And how you truly feel will depend on how you truly behave yourself. So what is going on in your life, again, you had it in the little lesson today, is what kind of a life is your thinking, your consciousness producing for you? But not only for you, but for everybody around you too, because you affect everybody around you. See, so if we are in heaven, in our mind, then we create heaven for everybody around and about us as well. If we're in hell in our minds, we create hell for everybody around and about us too. Who would have thought that it is that simple and that difficult to change anything in our lives? Just by changing our thought. And you know, how if all of us had a penny for every time we heard, you know, change your thinking and you change your life, change your thinking and you change your world, well, I think we'd all have a very nice little nest egg. We really would. We've heard it and heard it and heard it and heard it. But what does it mean in consciousness, in your consciousness, in my consciousness? Do we still go on thinking the same old way anyway? Because that means for him out there or for her over there, she's the one that needs to straighten out her thinking, and he really needs to change his mind about a whole lot of things. But it never really impacts us fully or deeply the way that it can, you see. It's all in the mind. It truly is all in the mind, whatever it is you're desiring, you're wanting, and so on. And when you and I are consciously connected with our source and that spiritual reference, that spiritual frame of consciousness, then all dominion is given to us. All dominion is given to us. Way back when Jeremiah said it, he said, you know, that the word for good was put in your mouth. The word for good was put in your mouth. The word that you speak is all-powerful. The word that you speak is all-powerful, and you can use it for your good or not, as the case may be. So you're the one that has to speak the word of truth in the circumstance you're in the challenge you're in. Whatever the circumstance, situation, or condition that is challenging is, you must speak your word into it. It's not enough for the world out there to do it. It's enough when you speak your word into it and then you take the help from the world that is out there. But you must first go to the place of power that you can go to overcome anything. And it's that state of your own conscious being. And you set up that state in your own conscious being, and then you state the word of truth for you. I am the whatever. I am the life of spirit happening now. My life is not just my life. It is the life of the omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent power out of which I came. That's what my life is. That's the truth of my life. And when I'm stating that to myself, I know that in that life can never be sick. That life can never go without. That life can never experience anything, only that which is good. And if I am experiencing anything other than that, then it's not the life, the true life of spirit that I am living. I am living the illusion. I am living from the mental state of perception, wherein I judge everything according to the senses. I have to go higher than that if I'm to overcome. If I am to overcome whatever it is that challenges me, I must go higher. And the higher I go, the more grace and ease with which I handle anything that crosses my path. And let me tell you, things will cross your path because you're on planet Earth in a body and you're living in a three-dimensional state. Things will cross your path. The only difference is you will move through those things with grace, with ease, and peace and joy, in loving relationship and always creatively expressing. That's the way you'll move through life. You can live that life. I can live that life. A life of grace, a life of ease, a life of true relationship, a life of fullness and plenty, a life of wonderful creativity. And the way I get to do that is to be not afraid. In the face of a challenge is to be not afraid. Instead of going to fear, I go to faith. I go to faith and never to fear. Because in my fear, I will be narrowed, I will be constricted, I will be limited, and I will get in the way of releasing from myself whatever it is I want to let go from myself, or attracting to myself the good I want to attract. if I stay at the level of fear. Fear not so many times crops up in all of the scriptures. Do not be afraid. I go before you always. Come follow me and I will give you rest. Be not afraid. Be not afraid. Cast your burdens upon me. Cast all your burdens upon me and I will refresh you. You know, take it higher. Take it higher. You have to understand and know for once and for all you can trust the power that created you. Trust the power that created you so that it could express itself through you. And when your source created you to express itself through you, it wasn't so that it could express sickness or sorrow or sadness or lack or limitation or any of that. When the source that created you so that you could have life and have it in abundance, so that your joy may be complete. When the source that created you knowing it was going to have this glorious time by means of expressing through you. That's why you were created. That's why I am created. And it'll never be anything other than that. And if you and I are not coming into the awareness of a full life and a good life and a life that is able to meet all of our needs and then some, then we're not thinking aright. We're not getting what consciousness is all about. We're not getting the power of thinking, the power of thought. We're not understanding that we don't have to move 1 iota of an inch away from ourselves in order to get the answers that we need, in order to get the wisdom that we need, in order to get the guidance that we need. All we have to do is open ourselves up to the divine wisdom that is there for us to embrace and allow move through us. The answers will come. The people we need in our lives will come. The situations we need in our lives will come. Everything will right itself if we put our hands in the hands of that which created us to express itself fully by means of each one of us. There's no ifs, ands, and doubts about that. I've proven that in my own life. You, I know, have proven it in your life at some stage or another, in some way or another, and all of us together, combined in that conscious spiritual awareness, can not only alleviate our own lives, but all life. We can raise up this whole planet. We can indeed be that light that we're created to be. Be that amazing energy for good that we are created to be. We can be the peace that we are created to be. We can be all of that good stuff that is in us right now exactly as we are, just for the changing of a thought, just for the changing of a perception, just for thinking about ourselves differently and not keeping ourselves in separation. I am not separated from my good, which is to say I am not separated from my God. God, good, it's interchangeable, same terms. Because as I reminded you of, the word God comes from the old German word that means almighty good. So I am not separate from my almighty good no more than you are. And the only thing that separates me from any good is my way of thinking and my way of perceiving and the consciousness that I entertain. It doesn't have to be so. I can change it and so can you. If you're ready to do that, then Spirit is ready to rush in and take you wherever you want to be, in mind, body, heart, and soul. It's up to you. The gift is given. There's nothing more for you to get. You've already been given it all. The power of consciousness, and that's the all. God is all there is. Good is all there is, and there is only God, there is only good. And I am that good. I am that good right here and right now, regardless of my circumstances. And I can change anything in my life if I am committed to it and I state the word and I stand by the word and I support the word with the way I think, with the way I feel, and with the way I perceive, no matter what. Even if there is half a wheel left on my wagon, it doesn't matter. The key is, when that half wheel is on your wagon, keep knowing the truth, keep stating the truth, keep feeling the truth, keep telling yourself how great you are, how wonderful you are, how healthy you are, how well you are, how full of all goodness you are. And let me tell you, if you can keep doing it, if I can keep doing it, it happens, and so it is, because that's the way life works. Are you ready for your good? Yes. Are you ready to release what you need to release? Yes. Are you ready to attract what you want to attract? Yes. Are you ready to go higher, yes, deeper, yes, wider, yes, when? Yes. And so it is.